In the year 2347, humanity had spread across the stars like wildfire. Colonies dotted distant planets, and Earth was more a memory than a home for many. Yet, despite their vast reach, humans remained outsiders in the galaxy, a species seen as primitive, clumsy, and insignificant by most advanced civilizations. Among these alien races were the Valith, an ancient and enigmatic species whose technology surpassed anything humanity could dream of. To them, humans were little more than pests, curious, but ultimately irrelevant. The story begins on Epsilon 9, a barren moon orbiting a dying star. A team of human scientists stationed there to monitor cosmic anomalies detected something unusual. Signal unlike anything they'd ever encountered. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, emanating from deep within the void. What made it truly strange was its origin. It wasn't coming from any known system or civilization. Instead, it seemed to be broadcasting between galaxies, far beyond what even the Valith claimed to explore. Dr. Elise Carter, the lead astrophysicist on the project, stood staring at the data cascading across her holographic screen. Eyes darted between lines of code and spectral charts, searching for patterns. Beside her, Dr. Marcus Hale, a jovial engineer with a penchant for cracking bad jokes under pressure, leaned over her shoulder. "This can't be natural," Marcus murmured, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "It's too precise, too deliberate." Elise nodded slowly. "If this is artificial, and I think it is, it's not meant for us. Look at the frequency modulation. This level of complexity suggests whoever sent it has tech we can't even comprehend." For weeks, the team debated whether to respond. Some argued that responding would be reckless, potentially drawing attention from forces humanity couldn't handle. Others insisted it was their duty to investigate further. Humanity had always been explorers, dreamers, and risk-takers. Why stop now? Finally, after much deliberation, they decided to send a simple reply, a mathematical sequence encoded in binary, representing prime numbers, a universal language, thought to transcend barriers of culture or biology. They transmitted the message into the void, unsure if anyone or anything would hear it. Days turned into weeks. And just as hope began to fade, something extraordinary happened. The signal changed. Its rhythmic pulse shifted slightly, mimicking the pattern of their transmission. It was confirmation they weren't alone. But then came the twist. As the team analyzed the new signal, they discovered something unsettling. Embedded within the response was a string of symbols that matched none of humanity's known languages or codes. Stranger still, when translated using algorithms designed to interpret alien communication, the message read, ***, not for you, ***, the. Room fell silent. The weight of those 3 words hung heavy in the air. Whoever or whatever had sent the signal hadn't intended for humans to receive it. And yet, here they were, intruding where they clearly didn't belong. Elise felt a chill run down her spine. She glanced at Marcus, who looked equally shaken. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly. Before she could answer, the station's alarms blared. The signal had grown stronger, flooding their systems with data so dense it threatened to overwhelm their equipment. Lines of unintelligible text scrolled across every screen, accompanied by eerie, harmonic tones that resonated through the walls. And then, amidst the chaos, one final message appeared, stark and unambiguous. ***, stop now. ***. The screen flickered ominously before going dark. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, without warning, the entire station shuddered violently, throwing everyone off balance. Outside the observation window, the bleak landscape of Epsilon 9 glowed faintly with an unnatural light. "What the hell is happening?" Marcus shouted, gripping the edge of a console for support. Elise stared out the window, her mind racing. Whatever they had awakened, it was no longer ignoring them. Whether friend or foe, it was coming. As the ground trembled beneath their feet, Elise realized one thing with absolute clarity. Humanity had stepped into a game. They didn't understand, and there was no turning back. The unnatural glow outside intensified, bathing the desolate surface of Epsilon in hues of deep violet and electric blue. Inside the station, panic rippled through the team as alarms continued to blare. Dr. Elise Carter fought to steady herself against the violent tremors shaking the facility. Her mind raced faster than her heart, trying to piece together what was happening. The signal had warned them twice, but humanity's curiosity had overridden caution. Marcus. Elise shouted over the noise, gripping a nearby console for balance. Shut down the transmitter. Now. Marcus Hale scrambled toward the main control panel, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. It's not responding, yelled back, frustration etched on his face. Something's overriding our systems. Before either of them could react further, the lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. For a moment, there was only silence as stark contrast to the chaos that had preceded it. Then, one by one, the screens reactivated, but instead of displaying data, they showed a single, pulsating symbol. It glowed faintly, resembling an intricate knot of interwoven lines, alien yet oddly mesmerizing. "What is that?" whispered Dr. Priya Patel, the xenolinguist who had joined the project 6 months earlier. She stood frozen, her wide eyes glued to the screen. "No idea," Elise replied, her voice tight with tension. "But I don't think we're dealing with random interference anymore." Suddenly the symbol expanded, filling every monitor in the room. A low hum filled the air, resonating through the walls and vibrating in their chests. It wasn't unpleasant, but it carried an otherworldly quality that sent shivers down everyone's spines. Then, without warning, the hum shifted into something resembling speech, or, at least, it's an attempt at communication. The words came slowly, distorted but decipherable. Asterisk, asterisk, why? Do you persist? Asterisk, asterisk, Elise froze, her breath catching in her throat. This wasn't just a signal anymore. It was talking to them. Against all odds and despite the clear warnings they had made contact, should we answer? Marcus asked hesitantly, glancing around the room. Elise didn't respond immediately, knew this decision carried enormous risks, but ignoring the question felt like an even greater mistake. Humanity had always thrived on connection, on reaching out even when faced with uncertainty. That was their strength and perhaps their greatest flaw. Taking a deep breath, she stepped closer to the nearest microphone embedded in the console. "We are human," she began, choosing her words carefully. "We seek understanding." I did not mean to intrude. There was a long pause, during which the entire team held their collective breath. Finally, the response came, cold and measured. Asterisk, asterisk, you misunderstand. You are fragile, unworthy. Asterisk, asterisk, the words hit like a punch to the gut. Fragile, unworthy. Humans weren't used to being dismissed so bluntly, especially after centuries of proving themselves resilient survivors. Anger flared briefly in Elise's chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. They couldn't afford to let emotion dictate their actions now. Priya leaned forward, her professional instincts kicking in. "This language structure is unlike anything we've seen before," she said quickly. "But it's not hostile. It's clinical, analytical, like they're studying us." As if to confirm her observation, the glowing symbol morphed again, splitting into smaller shapes that danced across the screens. Each shape seemed to represent a different concept. Danger, curiosity, calculation. It was as though the entity or entities on the other end were attempting to evaluate humanity's worthiness. "They're testing us," Elise murmured, realization dawning. "They want to see how we'll respond." Just then, the station shook violently once more. Outside, the glowing light grew brighter, illuminating strange patterns etched into the moon's surface. What had once been barren rock now resembled a vast circuit board, pulsing with energy. Whatever they were communicating with wasn't confined to the void, it was here. On Epsilon 9 itself, we can't just sit here and wait for them to decide what to do with us. Marcus said firmly, breaking the tense silence. "If they think we're unworthy, we need to prove them wrong." "But how?" Priya asked, her voice tinged with desperation. "We're completely outmatched." Elise turned to face her team, determination hardening her features. "By being who we are," she said simply, "humans don't give up. We adapt. We find solutions where none seem possible. And right now, we need to show them why we deserve a chance." With renewed resolve, the team sprang into action. Marcus worked tirelessly to stabilize the station's systems while Priya analyzed the alien symbols, searching for hidden meanings. Meanwhile, Elise focused on crafting a second message, one that conveyed humanity's spirit rather than its technological prowess. When the transmission was ready, Elise pressed send, her hands trembling slightly. The message was simple but heartfelt. Asterisk, asterisk, we may be fragile, but we are relentless. We ask questions, we dream, we create. Judge us not by what we lack, but by what we strive to become. Asterisk, asterisk. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screens went dark again, and the hum faded into silence. Fear crept into the room as doubt settled over the team. Had they failed? Or worse, had they angered whatever force they were dealing with? Then, unexpectedly, the station's systems rebooted. Lights flickered back on, and the trembling ceased. On the monitors, a new symbol appeared, a spiral, slowly rotating. Unlike the previous ones, this one felt warm, almost inviting, and beneath it, a single line of text blinked softly. Asterisk, asterisk, prove yourselves. Asterisk, asterisk. A collective sigh of relief swept through the room, followed quickly by a surge of adrenaline. The challenge had been issued. Humanity hadn't been dismissed outright, but neither had they been accepted. Not yet. Elise allowed herself a small smile. "Well," she said, turning to her team, "looks like we've got work to do." The spiral symbol lingered on the monitors, its gentle rotation casting a faint glow across the faces of the team. Despite the ominous tone of the message, "Prove yourselves," there was an undeniable sense of opportunity in the air. For the first time since receiving the signal, humanity wasn't being outright rejected. Whatever force they were dealing with had given them a chance at test. Dr. Elise Carter stared at the screen, her mind racing through possibilities. Proving themselves sounded straightforward enough, but what exactly did it mean? Did the entity want intellectual prowess, emotional depth, or sheer resilience? Humanity had plenty of all three, but how could they demonstrate that to beings who likely viewed them as insignificant? "We need a plan," she said finally, breaking the silence. "Something bold, something unmistakably human." Marcus Hale leaned forward, his usual humor replaced by intense focus. "What about showing them our ingenuity? Humans are nothing if not resourceful. We've built civilizations out of scraps and solved problems no one thought we could tackle." Patel nodded thoughtfully. "But this isn't just about intelligence. If their earlier messages are any indication, they're also evaluating our intentions. Maybe we need to show them empathy, creativity, qualities machines, or purely logical beings might lack." Elise considered both suggestions. Ingenuity and empathy were hallmarks of humanity, but combining them into a single demonstration would require more than just technical skill, would take heart. "Let's do both," she decided. "We'll create something that showcases our ability to think outside the box while staying true to who we are. Something personal yet universal." With that goal in mind, the team got to work. Marcus took charge of engineering, using whatever materials were available on Epsilon 9 to construct a device capable of transmitting complex data back to the mysterious entity. Meanwhile, Priya focused on crafting a Narita story encoded in symbols and patterns that conveyed humanity's journey from primitive tribes to interstellar explorers. Elise oversaw the project, ensuring every element reflected the essence of their species. As the hours passed, tensions ran high. The station's systems remained unstable, flickering intermittently as though the entity was watching and judging their efforts. Outside, the glowing patterns etched into the moon's surface pulsed rhythmically. It's almost like a countdown. At one point, Marcus slammed his fist against a console in frustration. "This is impossible. We're working with scraps here, and whatever is out there has tech we can't even comprehend." Elise placed a calming hand on his shoulder. "That's exactly why we have to keep going. They may have better tools, but we have something they don't. determination. Remember, they told us to prove ourselves not to be perfect? Her words seemed to reignite the team's resolve. They pressed on, fueled by exhaustion and adrenaline alike. By dawn, or what passed for dawn on Epsilon 9, they had created something remarkable. A hybrid transmission combining cutting-edge engineering with deeply human storytelling. The device itself was crude compared to alien standards, but it carried within it the soul of humanity, a mosaic of music, art, history, and hope. When everything was ready, Lise gathered the team around the main console. "This is it," she said quietly. "Whatever happens next, we've already proven one thing: we didn't give up." She activated the transmission, sending their creation into the void. For several agonizing minutes, there was no response. The spiral symbol continued to rotate silently, offering no clue as to whether their efforts had been received or understood. Then, slowly, the symbol began to change. New shapes emerged, intertwining with the original spiral in ways that defied logic, yet felt profoundly meaningful. The hum returned, louder this time, resonating through the station with a sense of anticipation. And then came the voice again, deeper and richer than before. Asterisk, asterisk, you are. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, the words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Unexpected. Could mean many things, good or bad, but the tone suggested curiosity rather than hostility. "They're intrigued," Priya whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "They didn't expect us to respond like this." Elise allowed herself a small smile. "Good. That means we're getting somewhere." But the moment of triumph was short-lived. Without warning, the ground beneath the station trembled violently. Once more, this time, however, it wasn't random. Chaos, it was deliberate. The glowing patterns outside shifted, forming intricate pathways that led toward a massive structure rising from the horizon. It looked like a monolith, towering and ancient, pulsating with the same eerie light as the symbols on their screens. "What?" now Marcus asked, his voice tinged with unease. Elise studied the structure through the observation window. She said firmly, "We go meet them." The team exchanged nervous glances. Leaving the safety of the station meant stepping directly into the unknown, a gamble with potentially catastrophic consequences. But staying put felt equally untenable. If the entity wanted them to prove themselves further, they couldn't afford to hesitate. Grabbing what little equipment they could carry, the team suited up and ventured outside. The barren landscape of Epsilon 9 stretched endlessly around them, cold and desolate, yet as they approached the monolith, they noticed something. Extraordinary carvings covering its surface, each depicting scenes of life, struggle, and triumph. Some showed celestial bodies colliding. Others depicted beings reaching out to one another across vast distances. It was as if the monolith contained the history of countless civilizations, all united by a shared quest for understanding. As they reached the base of the structure, a portal opened, revealing a shimmering expanse of light. Beyond it lay something, a realm unlike anything they'd ever seen. Elise turned to her team, her expression resolute. "Ready?" Marcus grinned despite himself. "Doesn't matter if I am. Let's do this." One by one, they stepped through the portal, leaving behind the familiar confines of their world. On the other side, they found themselves surrounded by swirling colors and shifting forms, as though reality itself had become fluid. In the distance, silhouettes moved, beings whose shapes defied description, and then a booming voice echoed through the space. "Asterisk, asterisk, show us your truth. Asterisk, asterisk." The challenge had deepened. Humanity's ingenuity and creativity had earned them a seat at the table, but only temporarily. Now, they would have to reveal their core, their very essence, to beings who saw them as fragile and unworthy. Elise took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Here goes nothing. Now, the swirling expanse of light and color around them felt both infinite and suffocating. Like standing in the heart of a storm that refused to settle, Dr. Elise Carter steadied herself, her boots sinking slightly into what seemed like solid ground, but gave way with an odd elasticity. Her team stood close behind her, their faces illuminated by the kaleidoscope of shifting hues. The air hummed faintly, vibrating against their skin as if alive. Before them loomed the silhouette stall, towering forms whose outlines shimmered and morphed constantly. They weren't static beings. They appeared to be made of energy, their shapes fluid and ever-changing. It was impossible to discern features or expressions, but there was an undeniable intelligence radiating from them. These were no mere machines or constructs, they were something far greater. The voice came again. It's resonating not just in their ears, but deep within their chests. Asterisk, asterisk, show us your truth. Asterisk, asterisk, Elise swallowed hard. Truth? What did that mean? Humanity's history was riddled with mistakes, conflicts, triumphs, and failures. How could they distill centuries of complexity into something these beings would understand or value? Broke the silence first, his tone laced with unease. Truth. That's vague. Are we supposed to spill our darkest secrets? Our greatest achievements? Both. Priya Patel stepped forward, her analytical mind already piecing together possibilities. Maybe it's not about listing facts or events. Maybe it's about showing who we are at our core. Our emotions, our connections, our capacity for growth. Elise nodded slowly. She's right. If they've been studying us even indirectly, they've probably already know our history. This isn't about reciting dates or battles. It's about revealing what makes us human. But how? The question hung heavy in the air. None of them carried tools sophisticated enough to project memories or emotions directly into this alien realm. All they had were themselves, their thoughts, their feelings, their shared humanity. Then, inspiration struck Elise. She turned to her team, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. We need to connect not just with each other, but with whatever is watching us. Let's show them our collective spirit. Without waiting for agreement, she reached out and took Marcus's hand, then extended her other hand to Priya. The gesture was simple, even instinctive, but it carried profound meaning. Slowly, hesitantly, her teammates followed suit, forming a circle. Their hands clasped tightly, grounding them amidst the surreal chaos. What now? Marcus asked, his voice quieter now, almost reverent. Focus, Elise instructed. Think about what matters most to you. Not accomplishments or accolades, but the moments that define you. Love loss, hope, resilience, whatever it is, let it flow through you. The team closed their eyes, concentrating on their innermost thoughts and emotions. At first, nothing happened. The alien environment remained unchanged, the towering silhouettes silent and still. But then, subtly, the atmosphere began to shift. The colors swirling around them brightened, pulsing in rhythm with their breathing. The humming grew louder. Harmonizing with their heartbeats, Elise thought of her father, a brilliant scientist who had taught her to never stop asking questions. Even when the answers seemed impossible to find, Marcus recalled the day he'd helped rebuild a devastated colony after a meteor strike, working tirelessly alongside strangers who became friends. Priya remembered the first time she'd deciphered an ancient alien language. Realizing that communication transcended barriers of culture and biology, as their emotions poured forth, the silhouettes reacted. Their forms rippled and expanded, taking on new dimensions. One silhouette stretched upward, resembling a tree sprouting leaves. Another split into countless smaller shapes, like stars scattering across the sky. It was as though the beings were interpreting and responding to the raw essence of humanity. And then, one of the silhouettes stepped closer, its form stabilizing into something vaguely humanoid. Though featureless, it radiated curiosity rather than hostility. A single word echoed in their minds. Asterisk, asterisk, why? Asterisk, asterisk, Elise opened her eyes, startled by the directness of the question. Why? Why? What? Why did humans strive so fiercely? Why did they persist despite their flaws and fragility? It's because we care, she said aloud, her voice trembling but resolute. We care about each other, about the future, about understanding things bigger than ourselves. We're flawed, Yes, but that's what drives us to improve, to grow, to reach beyond our limits. Her words seemed to resonate. The silhouette tilted its head, or at least gave the impression of doing so, and the other forms mirrored the movement. For the first time, the beings didn't feel distant or detached. They felt intrigued. Marcus chimed in, his usual humor, replaced by earnest sincerity. We mess up a lot. Trust me, I've seen it firsthand. But every time we fall, we get back up. Sometimes we surprise even ourselves. Priya added softly. We tell stories. About where we come from. We want to go. Stories keep us connected. Remind us why we matter. Even when we're scared or lost, those stories give us hope. For a long moment, the silhouettes remained motionless, as if processing everything they had heard. Then the largest figure raised, an arm-like appendage pointing toward the horizon, or what passed for one in this strange realm. A pathway emerged, glowing faintly and stretching into the distance. Asterisk, asterisk, continue. Asterisk, asterisk, the voice commanded, gentler now. Elise exchanged glances. With her team. Was this permission? An invitation? Either way, it was clear they were being asked to move forward to prove themselves further. Let's go, she said firmly, leading the way down the glowing path as they walked. The silhouettes followed silently, observing their every move. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of physical exertion, but because of the realization dawning on them. These beings weren't just testing humanity's worthiness, they were learning from them, perhaps for all their advanced technology and intellect. They lacked something essential that only humans could offer. When the path finally ended, the team found themselves standing before a massive crystalline structure. Its surface reflected their images back at them, distorted yet recognizable. Inside, faint lights flickered, forming patterns that resembled constellations. This is it, Elise whispered, awestruck. They're showing us. When of the silhouettes moved closer, its form melting into the crystal. As it did, memories not theirs, but the beings flooded their minds. Vast civilizations rising and falling. Wars fought over misunderstandings. A longing for connection tempered by fear of vulnerability. Elise gasped, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of it all. They've been alone, she murmured. All this time they've been searching for someone like us. The revelation hit them like a tidal wave. Humanity wasn't being judged out of malice or arrogance. It was being tested because the beings saw potential in them. Its potential to bridge gaps, to heal wounds, to unite. As the silhouettes withdrew slightly, leaving the team to process what they'd experienced, Elise turned to her companions. This changes everything, she said, her voice filled with quiet determination. We can't fail, not now. The crystalline structure loomed before them, its surface shimmering with an ethereal glow that seemed to pulse in sync with their heartbeats. Inside, the faint lights continued to dance, forming intricate patterns that told stories older than stars. The silhouettes, once distant and inscrutable, now hovered nearby, their forms softened, almost hesitant. It was as though they were waiting for humanity to make the next move. Dr. Elise Carter stood at the forefront, her mind racing with the enormity of what she had just witnessed. These beings weren't merely advanced aliens. They were custodians of knowledge, guardians of civilizations long extinguished. And yet, despite their power and wisdom, they carried a profound loneliness, a yearning for connection that mirrored humanity's own relentless search for meaning. We've been given a chance, Elise said quietly, her voice steady but tinged with awe, not just to prove ourselves, but to help them. To show them that even after everything we've done wrong, we can still reach out, still build bridges. Marcus Hale nodded, his usual humor replaced by a rare seriousness. How? What exactly are we supposed to do here? We're standing in front of whatever this is, and I'm pretty sure none of us has a manual for intergalactic diplomacy. Priya Patel stepped closer to the crystal, her fingers brushing lightly against its cool surface. Maybe it's not about doing something specific. Maybe it's about being present, showing them that we're willing to listen, to understand, even if we don't have all the answers. Elise considered this. The beings hadn't asked for solutions or grand gestures, they'd asked for truth. Humanity's flaws were undeniable, but so too was its capacity for empathy, resilience, and unity. Perhaps what mattered most wasn't perfection, but authenticity. Taking a deep breath, Elise placed both hands on the crystal, closing her eyes. She focused on the emotions swirling within her: hope, fear, determination, vulnerability. Slowly, she began to speak not in words, but through feelings, letting her thoughts flow freely into the crystal. "I'm scared," she admitted silently, her voice echoing only in her mind. "I don't know if we're ready for this. I also believe in us, in our ability to grow, to learn, to care. If you let us, we'll try. We'll keep trying, no matter what." To her astonishment, the crystal responded. Its surface rippled, absorbing her emotions like water soaking into dry earth. The lights within shifted, forming new constellations that seemed to mirror her words. Then, unexpectedly, warmth spread through her palms, flowing back into her body. It wasn't intrusive, it felt comforting, like a reassurance. Behind her, Marcus and Priya followed suit, each placing their hands on the crystal and sharing their own truths. Marcus spoke of his guilt over past failures, of times when he'd doubted humanity's ability to rise above its mistakes. Priya shared her joy in discovering languages, in finding beauty in differences and commonalities alike. Together, they wove a tapestry of human experience, flawed, messy, but undeniably real. As their emotions merged with the crystal, the silhouettes reacted visibly. Their forms expanded, glowing brighter and more defined. For the first time, they seemed less like observers and more like participants, joining in the exchange of truths. Then, without warning, the ground beneath them trembled. The crystal pulsed violently, sending waves of energy rippling outward. Elise stumbled backward, breaking contact as the silhouettes retreated slightly, their movements hurried and agitated. "What's happening?" Marcus shouted, bracing himself against the shaking terrain. Elise scanned the area, her heart pounding. The pathway they had walked along earlier was dissolving, replaced by jagged fractures that crackled with energy. Beyond the crystal, the horizon darkened, pulling shadows across the surreal landscape. "They're testing us again," Priya said urgently, her eyes wide with realization. "This isn't just about showing our truth, it's about proving we can face challenges together." Elise gritted her teeth, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Then let's show them." The team regrouped quickly, their bond stronger. Than ever, whatever lay ahead, they would face it as one. As the fractures spread, threatening to engulf the crystal entirely, Elise turned to her companions. "We need to stabilize this place. If we lose the crystal, we lose the connection." "But how?" Marcus asked, his voice strained. "We don't have tools, weapons, or anything remotely useful." "We use what we have," Elise replied firmly. "Our ingenuity and our unity." Thinking fast, Marcus retrieved a portable energy converter from his pack, a device originally designed to siphon power from unstable sources. "If we can redirect some of the crystal's energy, maybe we can counteract the destabilization." Priya nodded, already deciphering the patterns etched into the crystal's surface. "There's a rhythm to the pulses, if we time it right. We might be able to sync the converter with the crystal's frequency." Working together, the team acted with precision born of desperation. Marcus rigged the converter while Elise and Priya coordinated the timing, their voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony of instructions and encouragement. The tremors worsened, forcing them to cling to each other to stay upright. But they refused to falter. Finally, with a final adjustment, Marcus activated the device. A beam of light shot from the converter, merging with the crystal's glow. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the trembling subsided. The fractures sealed themselves, and the landscape stabilized once more. The silhouettes returned, their forms steadier now, radiating approval. One of them approached the crystal, its shape shifting into something resembling a human hand. Pressed against the surface, leaving behind a single symbol, a spiral, identical to the one that had first appeared on their monitors. Asterisk, asterisk, you endure. Asterisk, the voice echoed, softer now, almost reverent. Asterisk, asterisk, you adapt. You unite. Asterisk, asterisk, Elise exhaled sharply, relief washing over her. They had passed another test, but the pressure wasn't gone. The being's curiosity had deepened, but acceptance remained elusive. They see us differently now, Priya whispered, her voice filled with wonder, but they're still watching, waiting. Elise nodded, her resolve hardening. Then we'll keep proving ourselves, till they believe in us as much as we believe in ourselves. As the silhouettes withdrew once more, the team exchanged weary but determined glances. They had come so far, endured so much, yet the greatest challenge still lay ahead, and somewhere beyond the crystal. The beings prepared their final trial. The crystalline structure stood silent now. Its pulsating glow dimmed but not extinguished. The silhouettes had retreated to the edges of the surreal realm, their forms shimmering faintly as if observing from a distance. Yet, there was an unmistakable tension in the era sense that something monumental was about to unfold. Dr. Elise Carter and her team remained at the forefront. Their bodies weary, but their spirits unbroken. They're waiting, Priya Patel murmured, her gaze fixed on the beings. But for what? Elise didn't answer immediately. Her mind raced, piecing together everything they'd experienced so far. The tests, the challenges, the moments of connection they all pointed to. One thing, these beings weren't merely judging humanity. They were searching for proof that humans could transcend their flaws and rise to greatness. Maybe it's not just about us anymore, Elise said finally, her voice thoughtful yet resolute. Maybe it's about showing them that we can be. More than ourselves, that we can represent something bigger? Marcus Hale frowned, scratching his head. Bigger how? Like galactic ambassadors or something. Exactly, Elise replied, turning to face him. Think about it. These beings have been alone for who knows how long, watching civilizations rise and fall. They've seen failure after failure, but we were still trying, still reaching out. If we can show them that our persistence isn't just stubbornness, but hope, maybe that's what they need to see. Priya nodded slowly, her eyes lighting up with understanding. Hope is universal, even across species, even across galaxies. It's something everyone understands. With renewed clarity, the team turned their attention back to the crystal. Its surface reflected their images once more, distorted, yet somehow clearer than before. It was as though the structure itself was urging them forward, inviting them to take the next step. Elise stepped closer, placing her hands on the cool surface. She closed her eyes, focusing not just on her own emotions this time, but on humanity's collective spirit. She thought of Earth, not the planet ravaged by war and greed, but the one filled with dreams and possibilities. She thought of colonies scattered across the stars, each one a testament to human resilience. She thought of art, music, science, and love, all the things that made life worth living. And then she began to speak not just to the beings, but to herself, to her team, to the universe. We are flawed, she admitted, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. We make mistakes. We hurt each other. We destroy what we should protect. But we also heal. We rebuild. We dream. And no matter how many times we fall, we get back up. That's who we are. That's why we endure. Her words resonated through the chamber, carried not by sound, but by emotion. The crystal absorbed them, its light flaring brightly for a brief moment. Then unexpectedly, the silhouettes moved closer, their forms shifting into shapes that resembled constellations, patterns of stars, connected by invisible threads. You seek unity, the voice echoed, softer now, almost contemplative. Asterisk, asterisk, yet you remain divided. Asterisk, asterisk, Elise opened her eyes, startled by the observation. It was true, humanity wasn't united. Wars, prejudices, and rivalries continued to tear people apart, even as they reached for the stars. As how could they claim to represent hope when so much division remained? But instead of despair, determination surged within her. That's why we're here, she said firmly. To change that. to show that we can come together not just for ourselves, but for others. For you. The silhouettes paused. There. Movements slower now, deliberate. One of them extended a tendril-like appendage, touching the crystal gently. In response, the structure emitted a low hum, vibrating in harmony with the team's heartbeats. Then, something extraordinary happened. Images began to form within the crystal, not memories of the past, but visions of the future. Cities floating among the stars, built not by conquest, but by collaboration. Beings of different species working side by side, sharing knowledge and culture. A galaxy united not under one banner, but through mutual respect and understanding. These are possibilities. Priya whispered, tears streaming down her face. They're showing us what could be. Elise felt a lump rise in her throat. The images weren't promises, they were challenges. Humanity would have to earn this future, to fight for it with every ounce of strength and compassion they possessed. As the visions faded, the silhouettes withdrew further, leaving behind a single glowing spiral hovering above the crystal. Slowly it descended, settling into Elise's palm. It was warm, pulsating softly like a heartbeat. You carry our trust, the voice said, resonating deeply. Asterisk, asterisk, use it wisely. Asterisk, asterisk for a moment. The team stood frozen, overwhelmed by the enormity of what had just transpired. They had done more than pass a test. They had forged a bond, a fragile one perhaps, but real nonetheless. Elise looked at her. Teammates, her expression fierce yet tender. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. The spiral in Elise's hand pulsed softly, its glow casting a warm light across the team's faces. It was small, no larger than her palm, but it carried an immense weight. The beings had entrusted them with something far greater than mere acknowledgement. They had given humanity a chance to prove itself on a galactic scale. As the silhouettes faded into the distance, dissolving into the shimmering expanse of the alien realm, the air grew still. Heavy with the promise of change, Dr. Elise Carter turned to her companions, her voice steady but filled with quiet awe. We've been handed a responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to everyone who comes after us. This isn't about one mission or one discovery. It's about what we do next. Marcus Hale nodded, his usual humor replaced by a rare seriousness. Yeah, no pressure, right? Just unite humanity, save the galaxy, all that jazz. Patel smiled faintly, brushing away the last remnants of tears from her cheeks. It's not impossible, she said softly. Not if we remember why we're here. Not if we hold on to hope. The team stepped back through the portal together, leaving behind the surreal landscape of swirling colors and shifting forms. When they emerged on Epsilon 9, the barren moon felt different, somehow not less desolate, but imbued with new meaning. The glowing patterns etched into the surface had dimmed, their purpose fulfilled. Above them, the stars twinkled as though, winking in approval. Back inside the station, the monitors flickered back to life, displaying the same spiral symbol now resting in Elise's hand. Beneath it, a single line of text blinked softly. Asterisk, asterisk, begin. Asterisk, asterisk. Elise stared at the screen for a long moment before turning to her team. This is our starting point, our challenge, but also our opportunity. Over the following weeks, news of their encounter spread cautiously across human space. At first, skepticism reigned. How could a group of scientists claim to have communicated with ancient, advanced beings? Yet when the spiral was presented as evidence, its pulsating energy defying explanation, even the most hardened skeptics began to listen. Governments, corporations, and independent colonies alike took notice, drawn not just by curiosity, but by the implications of what the artifact represented. Elise became the face of this new era reluctant leader thrust into a role she hadn't sought but refused to shy away from. With Marcus and Priya by her side, she traveled across systems, sharing the story of their journey and the vision the beings had shown them. They spoke not of conquest or dominance, but of collaboration and understanding. Slowly, barriers began to crumble. Old rivalries gave way to tentative alliances. Projects once deemed impossible, like constructing sustainable habitats on hostile planets or developing universal translation devices, became priorities. Yet the true breakthrough came not from technology or treaties, but from storytelling. Inspired by the visions within the crystal, artists, writers, and musicians began creating works that transcended cultural divides. Songs written in one language were sung in another. Paintings depicting alien landscapes sparked conversations between species separated by light years. Humanity's creativity, empathy, and resilience became tools for unity rather than division. Years later, standing aboard a newly constructed space station orbiting a distant star, Elise gazed out at the vast expanse of the cosmos. Beside her stood Marcus and Priya, older but no less determined. Together, they watched as representatives from dozens of civilizations gathered to celebrate the launch of the Unity Accord, a coalition dedicated to fostering peace, knowledge sharing, and mutual growth across the galaxy. As fireworks erupted silently against the backdrop of space, Elise felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Humanity hadn't solved all its problems, not yet, but it had taken the first step toward something greater, something worth striving for. Priya leaned closer, her voice soft but full of conviction. "Do you think they're watching?" The beings. Elise smiled, her gaze fixed on the stars. "I don't know, maybe, but I think they already know what matters most, that we're trying." Marcus chuckled, slinging an arm around both women. "And hey, if we screw up, I'm sure they'll send another test our way." They laughed, the sound echoing warmly in the observation deck. For all the challenges ahead, there was hope of Fragile, its flickering flame that burned brighter with every shared dream and act of kindness. In the end, it wasn't perfection that defined humanity. It was persistence, resilience, heart, and somewhere beyond the stars, the silhouettes watched, their forms shimmering faintly as they whispered,